Very excited to see everybody. It's always great to have a fellow engineer from the C-suite to join us, and then you all love to see that as well. I'm Fred Higgs. I'm a professor of mechanical engineering. I also have a joint appointment in bioengineering. And as George said, I'm the faculty director for the Rice Center for Engineering Leadership, which we refer to as RCEL. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Engineers in the C-Suite speaker series. This series is unlike any other. It's dedicated to highlighting engineering leaders as broadly defined by Rice, right, which is engineering and computing disciplines, who have risen to the highest level of organizational leadership, the C-Suite. For students unfamiliar, the C-Suite refers to a company's top executive roles. So the CEO, of course, CTO, CIO, or COO, like Chief Operating Officer. Positions where major decisions are made and vision becomes reality. This series offers a chance to learn firsthand how engineers can not only enter that room, but how they are shaping the agenda. We've seen incredible momentum in the last 2 years with this series. In December, when we first started, December 2023, we launched the series. We had Jim Whitehurst, former CEO of Red Hat and Unity Technologies. In February 2024, we welcomed Antonio Neri, the CEO of HP Enterprise. About less than a year ago, we had, in November 2024, Dr. Sandra Johnson, CEO of SKJ Visioneering. And today we're continuing that tradition. It's a C-suite that we aimed at, but we've had all CEOs. And today is no different in having a world-class CEO. This is an especially important conversation for today's aspiring leaders, which many of our students in this room are. We're living in the fourth industrial revolution, a time when AI, data, automation are transforming every aspect of industry. In this environment, every company must become a technology company. And energy companies know that well. Their work demands massive, high-risk feats of engineering, which is why I think they're placing engineers in the C-suite to anchor strategy and technical expertise and operational precision. At RCEL, we've embraced that reality. In addition to our undergraduate engineer leadership certificate, we created the Masters of Engineering Management and Leadership degree, known as the MEMO degree around campus, a faster paced graduate certificate to prepare engineers to lead engineering without leaving engineering. Our mission is to turn technical talent into transformative leadership. This series is a key part of that mission. It shows what's possible when engineers don't just solve problems, but they set the vision. And now to formally introduce tonight's speaker and student moderator, I'm pleased to hand it over to Dr. Lisa Biswal, Chair of Rice's Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering. Thank you and enjoy the conversation.
Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here. I'm Lisa Biswal. I serve as Chair of the Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Department here at Rice University. And it's my pleasure to be able to introduce Dr. Mark Lashier, Chairman and CEO of Phillips 66, as tonight's engineer in the C-suite. Dr. Lashier is an accomplished chemical engineer with over 30 years of experience in leadership roles across energy and petrochemical industries. He was born and raised in Farragut, Iowa, a town with 600 people in the extreme southwest corner of the state. Mark attended Iowa State University, where he earned his BS in chemical engineering in 1985 and his PhD in 1989. Upon completion of his doctorate, he joined Phillips Petroleum as Associate Research Engineer at the renowned Corporate Research Center in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Within 4 years, he was named inventor on 3 U.S. patents related to alkane chemistry, which became the first of eventual 13 U.S. patents. In 2002, Dr. Lashier joined the newly formed joint venture Chevron Phillips Chemical Company, known as CP Chem. There, he progressed through a number of leadership positions around the globe, including regional manager in Asia, project director for Saudi Arabia, vice president for corporate planning and development, senior vice president of specialties, aromatics, styrenics, executive vice president of olefins and polyolefins, and ultimately president of CP Chem. So you can be able to see lots of stepping stones to be able to get to the CEO position. In 2021, Dr. Lashier returned to the parent company, now known as Phillips 66, as president and assumed CEO responsibilities in 2022. He leads a diversified but focused global energy company that is number 28 on the Fortune 500 list, with over 13,000 employees and $140 billion in annual revenue. In addition to his corporate leadership, Dr. Lashier serves in leadership roles in a number of industry groups and nonprofits, including here in town. This includes the Greater Houston Partnership, Junior Achievement of Southeast Texas, the American Cancer Society CEO Against Cancer, the MD Anderson's Cancer Center Board of Visitors, and the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation. He is a member of the American Petroleum Institute Executive Committee, the Business Roundtable, the Business Council, and the National Petroleum Council. Dr. Lashier's alma mater, Iowa State, has honored him on at least 3 different occasions. This includes the Professional Achievement Citation in Engineering in 2013, the Anson Marston Medal in 2022 for outstanding achievement in advancing engineering science, technology, and policy, and inducting him into the school's Chemical and Biological Engineering Hall of Fame. Closer to home, in 2024, he was honored with the Houston World Affairs Council as Houston's International Citizen of the Year, the council's highest honor. Now, if you've been to previous RCEL programs, you know one of the hallmarks of this job is moderating by an entrusted student. And tonight is no exception. Our moderator is Clayton Waski, if I say that right, a civil engineering major from Will Rice College, who is not only completing his bachelor's degree, but also started on his professional master's. Clayton is one of the student directors of RCEL, and last year he was part of the Rice delegation at the Naval Academy Leadership Conference in Annapolis, Maryland. So please join me in welcoming tonight's engineer in the C-suite, Dr. Mark Lashier and Clayton.
First things first, Dr. Lashier, I would like to thank you for joining us today and sharing your experiences and insights from throughout your career.
Well, Clayton, thank you for the invitation. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight to listen. I look forward to answering your questions. That's the best part of these things. But I'm very excited to be here. I jumped at the chance to come and speak to a group of engineers that aspire to be leaders.
Let's begin with a little bit of background. Many audience members have likely heard the name Phillips 66 and know it is a part of the energy sector, but not as many people know what your specific business is. Can you tell us more about what Phillips 66 does?
Absolutely. Phillips 66 is an integrated downstream energy company. Well, what does that mean? A lot of people know us as the shield that you see on some gas stations. We're also Phillips 66. We're Conoco out on the West Coast. We're 76 brand. And we do refine crude oil into gasoline, jet, and diesel, but we're much more than that. We operate pipeline systems. We call that our midstream business that takes hydrocarbons, either crude oil from Canada or from the Permian Basin into our refineries, and we operate the pipeline systems and terminals that take gasoline, jet, and diesel out to where you can access it at the local station, or it gets into the aircraft that you're flying in, or the trucks that are delivering goods to your grocery store. But we have a parallel value chain called natural gas liquids that also consists of processing facilities that gather and process natural gas and natural gas liquids coming out of the energy basins. We process that through facilities called fractionators into purity products that are primarily used then in petrochemicals. So we have this advantage of being a participant in the refining business, the midstream business, and the petrochemicals business, so we can manage the molecules, we can optimize and create the most value for our shareholders. And we've got a group that markets those those materials out to end users. And we've got another group that optimizes everything across the board. So we make sure that we're getting the most value out of every molecule that we process, that we produce. And that gives us a competitive advantage out in the world. And recently we've entered renewables. We converted a refinery in San Francisco from producing crude oil. Now it takes things like used cooking oil and animal fats and greases and soybean oil and produces both renewable diesel that you can put in a car that consumes diesel today. Your car won't know, it will know the difference because it's a little cleaner than traditional diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel. So we're lowering the carbon footprint of those transportation fuels. We also produce similar materials in a refinery we have in the UK, our Humber refinery. And so we're trying to push back the envelope of what we're doing, what we're processing. And at the end of the day, though, our whole mission is to provide energy and improve lives. And we'll talk a bit more about that. But I think the one thing as we go forward in the conversation, think about how important energy is in your life. Think about how important energy is to the world, how important energy is. Imagine this room without any energy, the materials that are produced from hydrocarbons. We're committed to providing energy in whatever form we need to provide it. We're committed to doing it in the least impactful way we can on the environment. There's no such thing as clean energy. Every energy source has some issue that has to be dealt with, and we're committed to finding ways to continue to provide you with affordable, clean energy in the best way we can. That's why we need bright minds like yours to come on board in the energy industry to help us continue to evolve and get better at what we do each and every day.
We'll now move into your corporate journey. You began your career as a researcher and have since progressed into more business-oriented roles. Can you walk us through that transformation and what skills have proven most transferable?
Sure. I did start off in R&D. I thought I was going to be in R&D my entire career. I had spent 4 years studying catalysis, so I wanted to do that. I had Phillips 66 or Phillips Petroleum Company gave me the opportunity to do that, but I was always interested in the commercial applications of the things that I was working on. So I was always curious about the business. I was always curious about how we turned the science into profits so the company could continue to exist and provide the things everybody needs. I had an opportunity about 4 years into my career to go work at a major facility just an hour or so south of here in Sweeney, Texas, where I was involved in the ethylene business. Now, the molecules I worked with in R&D were very similar. So I knew the chemistry, I knew how all these things fit together, but I didn't know how we created value. And it was an eye-opening experience to go work in a facility, a massive facility, where you had high temperatures, high pressures, and you had to figure out how to keep all those things in the pipe, do it safely and remarkably efficiently every day. And I got to meet the frontline operators that were out there doing that every day. And so I really discovered the importance of working with people and collaborating to get things done. And I think that's when I realized that I may not ever find my way back to R&D. I really enjoyed that dimension of the business, and I had opportunities then to move into a business development job, a more commercial job. And the really cool thing was I got to commercialize the technology I worked on in R&D. You heard mentioned that I have 13 patents. I actually got to turn those patents into facilities that produced the chemicals that we were designed to produce. And now Chevron Phillips Chemical Company is the largest producer on the planet of that material. It's a co-monomer for polyethylene. Afterwards, I can really bore you with lots of gory details. But during that commercial development process, I was working with a very experienced commercial individual, and he was a supreme negotiator. And I watched him negotiating, and I watched how he sought to find common ground with the people he was trying to negotiate with. And that really resonated with me. I really, my curiosity, my desire to see how we could take technology and turn it into something that people valued, and how to bring that out into the world, in the commercial world, that really resonated with me. And I knew that was the path I wanted to get on. And then that just eventually led to more leadership roles. I helped build facilities in the Middle East, but a lot of that was, again, negotiating with local partners, finding common ground in cultures that I had never experienced before. It just, everything built on itself, and one thing led to another. But the common thread really was about curiosity, being curious about technology, being curious about how technology can be used to make people's lives better, to being curious about people's cultures and what they were interested in accomplishing for their country, for their economy, and making that all come together in a way that made sense for everybody involved. And it's as your career goes on, you find out that it becomes less and less about your own personal accomplishments and more about the accomplishments of those around you. What are you bringing into the community? What are you bringing into the economy? How are you helping people understand how to make the most out of their careers? And that's, I would say, the best part of climbing up through all these jobs that were mentioned all the way to the C-suite, is at the end of the day, you're really trying to bring people together for a common cause to accomplish great things.
Let's focus on one aspect of your career. As an engineer with substantial work experience abroad, how has your international experience influenced your leadership approach?
That's a great question, Clayton. I think Clayton and I have a shared background in the Midwest. I never imagined the things I'd be able to do and the places I'd be able to go when I joined a company like Phillips Petroleum Company. My hometown's 600 people. I went to school at Iowa State University in a very small university town. My first job was in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. These are not bastions of diversity, okay? These are, very monocultural, but through the technologies that I worked on, I had the opportunity to travel abroad to Asia to try to license some of these technologies, to try to maximize the value. And I fell in love with travel. I fell in love with engaging with other cultures. And so the course of my career, I've done business in almost every Asian country: Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, China. I spent a lot of time in China when things were just really taking off and growing rapidly there. I have great friends there still. One of the best mentors I ever had was a Chinese man who, I think he'd been selling polyethylene in Asia and China for 50 years. And he really helped me understand Asian culture, Chinese culture, which is very different than Korean culture, which is very different than Japanese culture. I had to negotiate deals in all those cultures, and then boom, I had to shift into the Middle East. And so again, a whole different culture where building relationships though is foundational. And I think that was the biggest thing I learned both in Asia and the Middle East, is that you really can't start talking about business until you've had a chance to develop a relationship with people. And it's interesting because the base assumption they have of you as an American coming in, that you're going to be brash, that you're going to be impatient, and that you'll make a bad deal because you just want to get the deal done. And actually, I was successful because I didn't live up to the stereotypical expectation of an American. I was patient. I wanted to get to know people. I was willing to sit down, have tea, have drinks, whatever, and I love to eat every kind of food on the planet. And so that was an advantage. But it really, again, it all comes back to being curious about other people's culture, about other people's desires and needs, what they need for their economy, what they need for their country. How can you help accomplish those common goals? And I just had a great time doing it. And my family moved with me to Singapore. We lived there for almost 6 years. Our kids basically grew up in Singapore, and it changed who they are. They would look you in the eye today and say they are different, better people because they experienced all these cultures. And so I went from having zero cultural experience to really understanding what diversity and inclusion is all about. We moved to a culture where we were the outsiders. We were the ones trying to figure things out. We had to really understand what we believed and how to interact. And it really changed. It profoundly changed me and my family for the better.
In the different stages of your career, do you have any important mentors, and are there any cautionary tales you'd be willing to share?
I would say I had mentors every step of the way. You don't always realize it in the moment, but when you get to 35, 36 years in your career, you can look back. My first boss, another PhD engineer in R&D, he was just really a great mentor, very patient with me. Taught me a lot to help me understand that. He said, the first thing he says, look, every engineer that comes into a company, you have to create about $10 million worth of value just to justify your existence, so the company actually profits from you being there. And that seemed like something very daunting. But then you quickly realize how it can multiply quickly. I would say the next one I had was while I was working at the Sweeney complex, trying to help the facility do things better. The gentleman that was responsible for the whole chemicals business took me under his wing, and that's how I got to move into commercial jobs. And the last thing he did before he retired is he pulled me out of a meeting and said, "I'm not supposed to have this conversation with you, but we're going to offer you this job in Singapore. So go home and talk to your wife and kids and see if that's right for you." I said, "I'll take the job." He said, No. You need to go home and talk to your wife." I said, "You don't understand. We've already had that conversation." And I think that's part of the cautionary tale, is that when you're in a job, you should focus on the job that you're in, but you should also be thinking about what you would like to do. No, you're going to have mentors, you're going to have people that are helpful in your career, but really you need to take control of what you want to do. And if you see something that you're curious about, or you think you would be able to contribute in, you need to think through, okay, what do I have to do to get there? And so my wife and I had that conversation, that if one of these international jobs shows up, the answer is yes, before somebody changes their mind and thinks they don't want you to go do that. And that really has it's been a great collaboration with my wife and our family to do things like that. And great conversations with the mentor I mentioned. In fact, the gentleman just passed away here in the last couple of years. That he taught me about Asian culture and a lot about selling things into an Asian culture, and I helped dispel some of the preconceived notions, the stereotypes he had about U.S. culture, and so it's a lot of mentoring relationships. Really, both parties benefit from it, but I would say that every step of the way, there's been somebody that's been willing to help me understand the reality of what's going on. One guy, though, in particular that I want to talk about was a mentor. When I moved to Sweeney, I was this PhD engineer from this ivory tower up in Oklahoma, and I'm dropping into this knuckle dragging hardcore refinery in Sweeney, Texas, and these people were dead serious about what they did, but they didn't really want to deal with this PhD guy from what does he know about running a plant? But there was one guy there. His name was Ray. And Ray came up through the ranks. He came up. He was an operator. He was gruff. He smoked cigarettes, and he just had this gravelly voice. But he and I got along really well, and he became a great mentor. But I have to tell you something else about him. He was an Army veteran. He served in the Corps. That's the honor guard at Arlington National Cemetery, and those people have to commit to, for their entire life, living according to certain rules. And he oozed integrity. And I will tell you that really resonated with me. It sunk into me that, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and it resonates with our core values at work, that integrity is a big part of that, and so, not just mentoring, but an example of how to live your life. It's important. And then it's important to be a mentor and return that kind of example to people that you come across in your career.
As CEO, one of your chief responsibilities is to set the corporate vision and culture for the organization. How do you embed a culture of innovation in a company that is strongly focused on operations?
That's a great question. And since 2021, when I came back from Chevron Phillips Chemical into Phillips 66, that really was the primary focus, the primary challenge. You think about what was going on then. COVID had really taken a hold, and the world was telling the people that worked in refineries that you need to go away. We don't need those terrible products. You need to figure out how to quit producing hydrocarbons. And we really had to turn the minds and hearts around of people in those businesses to say, look, the world's going to need what you do for a very long time. It's not going to replace what you do overnight. In fact, probably for our entire lives, we'll still need these hydrocarbons, but we have to be really good at it. and we have to innovate, and we have to get better at it, and we have to make sure that we have the lowest impact on the environment that we have. And to get that mindset into the entire organization was a major focus and a major task. And we put our money where our mouth was. We made investments to make things more efficient, to make things cleaner. We'd go to the frontline operators and say, look, what are the things that are making your job inconvenient? What are the things that are making your jobs inefficient? How can we do this better? I don't know how to do your job. I can help set this vision of where the company needs to go, but you know your job better than I'll ever know your job. So help me help you do it better. Tell me what you need to do it better. And I will tell you, in a matter of 18 months, I went from standing on a stage in a refinery giving a town hall with people that looked like they had dark clouds over their heads to people that were firing questions at me left and right to how can we do this? What can we do? What can we do about this? How can we get better? And it really was just opening up possibilities for people. We had kind of an old school mentality, just wait to do what you're told to do. And when I shocked them when I was asked, so they said, Mark, just tell us what to do and we'll do it. And I said, I know you will. I said, but I don't know how to tell you what to do. I can tell you where we need to go. I can tell you where we want to be, but you have to figure out how to do your job as well as you can. We'll give you the resources. We'll set the course. And we just really unleashed the intellect of 13,000 people to drive the company where we need to go. And it is really showing up in everything that we do today.
You have a deep background as an engineer, but you lead an organization that relies on thousands of non-technical people as well. What are some of the special considerations for a technical person leading an organization that is both technical and non-technical?
I think that the advantage an engineer has is you have a problem-solving perspective, but you look at things like big systems. You think of everything in terms of systems and components of systems and how to make those systems better. But you really have to develop a keen sense of listening, because you are managing a large group of people with very diverse skills, and you have to do a lot more listening than you do talking, and really listen to get people to express their viewpoints and to take those viewpoints and come to a better solution. So I think that's really the good combination to have, is that technical perspective, to think about things systematically, but then listening to everybody in the room and trying to find an optimal solution. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everybody. It doesn't mean you have to, make everybody's idea a part of the game, but you want to get their ideas on the table. You want to get their views on the table, and people will surprise you when they come up with something that's just incredible. And to get the best out of people, you've got to pour into them and make sure that they feel valued, that they feel like they have a place to belong, and that they get a chance to contribute.
One of the most prominent disruptions in the industry is the environmental impact of producing and using energy. What opportunities are there at Phillips 66 and more broadly in the energy industry for engineering and computing graduates to pursue environmental goals in their career?
Yeah, when you think about the impact energy has on your life, when you think about things like, for thousands and thousands of years, I think the average life expectancy of human beings was something like 25 or 30 years. And the number one thing that changed that, and now the life expectancy is almost 3 times that and probably going higher, the number one thing that impacted that was access to affordable, convenient energy. And so we don't want to go back to having 30 years life expectancy. We don't want to go back to living in caves. There are a lot of people on the planet, probably several billion people on the planet, that still have to burn dung and sticks and things to try to get a little bit of clean water so their kids aren't sick all the time. And so there are tremendous opportunities to bring clean, affordable energy to people in the world who want to have the kind of lifestyle you have. Today, the world consumes something over 100 million barrels of oil equivalent a day, 100 million barrels per day. Growing, we're almost probably to 110 million barrels of oil a day. Replacing that is a massive challenge, and it's low cost, and it's convenient, and it's transportable, it's fungible, but it generates a lot of CO2. So we have to get really, really good at what we do. Everything we do, we have to lower the carbon footprint of that, because it's going to be around for a very long time. We're not going to replace it overnight, and nobody's giving up their lifestyles. And there are billions of people in the world that want to have better lifestyles. So the first step is to get really good at that, lower the carbon footprint. That's why we're doing things like converting refineries to use low carbon intensity renewable feedstocks. That's why we're putting solar panels around our refineries so that the electricity that we use is solar powered. That's why we're tapping into all the above to make it the best that it can be. And I will tell you that there are technologies not yet discovered that you and your peers will discover and bring to bear for us to get more and more efficient with what we do. I mean, today, we know technically how to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere. We know the chemistry to convert that CO2 into jet fuel, and we can do that all day long. You couldn't afford a plane ticket, so whatever we do has to be affordable. We can't impose things on economies that breaks economies, that destroys economies, because then that will cause mass disruption. But we've got to continue to look for solutions that have better and more efficient use, and more efficient ability to produce energy. Even windmills, they have a downside. Solar panels have a downside. There's no such thing as clean energy. It's how you clean up after yourself that matters. And there will be technologies. I think if we could master fusion technologies, that unlocks, then we can afford to suck CO2 out of the air, convert it into jet fuel, and you won't have batteries flying jets. You can still use jet fuel to fly jets, but we can afford to suck the CO2 out of the air and use that almost free fusion power to put energy back into that CO2. And so I believe that AI is going to open up incredible vistas for medicine. I think our lives will be better and we'll live longer because of AI. I think we'll find better solutions for energy production because of AI. But it's going to take a lot of energy. AI is going to suck up a lot of energy to get to that point. And so we may have to push more hydrocarbon energy to get AI to where it can help us solve the problems. And you and your peers and those that come after you are going to figure out those things. And we need the problem-solving ability, the diverse thinking. And I will tell you that you're coming out of Rice University, your peers are coming out of other universities with knowledge of these tools that I'm really jealous of. And that I will never completely be able to master because I only have a few years of my career left, but I'm counting on all of you to take those tools and do amazing things with them, because the world will be a better place. We'll all enjoy better lifestyles. We'll have less impact on the environment, all because of what you'll be able to do with that knowledge that's at your fingertips. That AI is going to be like this incredible tutor that will help you do better things faster and more efficiently. And you're going to use it for good things, and you're going to help us crack some of the challenges that we face.
What technology frontier most excites you currently, and how is the energy industry embracing or adapting to it?
Sorry, Clayton, I already answered that question, but no, that's really it. Again, never forget the impact that energy has on your life and the life of everybody on this planet. Your life's pretty miserable. Chances are some of you have experienced hurricanes while you've been here if you're not from the Gulf Coast, and you know that the lights go out, the ice melts, life in about day 3 starts to get really miserable. And so it just kind of drives home the fact that we need every affordable, reliable source of energy that we can get to make sure that the lights don't go out, to make sure that groceries can make it to the grocery store, to make sure that you can stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And you're going to figure out how to do that better and better and better. And we've been doing that for hundreds of years. That refinery that I told you about in San Francisco that we converted from crude oil to renewables. It was built originally at that site. I don't think any of the assets are still there, but it was built originally in the late 1800s to produce kerosene to replace whale oil that was keeping the lights on in San Francisco. And so there's, I guess you could say whale oil was renewable. I would not advocate using whale oil to generate kerosene today, but the point is that there's always this technical evolution going on, but it's just accelerating exponentially, and you're right at the inflection point of that, and you all are going to have wonderful careers harnessing that for the good of every person on this planet.
Reflecting on all of your varied experiences, what is one key learning that you would like to impart on our audience members today who are about to start their careers?
Be curious. That's really it. Be curious. Be curious about each other. It's okay to agree to disagree. It's okay to have difference of opinions. In fact, if you're not talking to people constructively that have different viewpoints than you, you're missing out. Because I guarantee you'll learn something from them, they'll learn something from you, and you both will come to a better place. And it really just boils down to being truly curious. Be humble. Nobody has it all figured out, but be driven to make things better. And if you can master those three, being curious, being humble, and being driven to make things better, you'll do great things.
This is our last prepared question.
Oh,
Where do you see the energy industry heading in the next 10 to 20 years? And how can today's engineering students best prepare themselves for the changes in the industry? And what advice would you give to young professionals who want to be on the forefront of these changes?
I think if you're interested in the energy industry, if you're interested in making a difference, if you're interested in providing energy, improving lives, understand the fundamentals, understand the economics of energy and why people need energy and how energy moves around the infrastructure needed, because it is a massive global infrastructure that's been built. I don't know if any of you seen Landman. I think Billy Bob Thornton does quite well explaining it. I've told my kids I've given that speech without the F-bombs several times, but he really does. He does articulate it quite well, that it's just this system has been built up over hundreds of years, and it makes people's lives better. But to take it to a better place, you got to really understand those fundamentals of how energy impacts everybody's lives, because you can't abandon one massive source of energy without understanding how it's going to be replaced at scale. There's not enough used cooking oil in the world to produce the diesel that we need to produce. Maybe we can produce 5% of the diesel in the world with used cooking oil, but that's not stopping us from doing it because it makes that incremental difference. Don't let something that can change things incrementally get thrown in the trash because it's only incremental. It may not get us to net zero tomorrow, but it gets us a step closer. So look at those solutions that get us closer, because every one of those steps buys time until this great breakthrough comes through that helps us leap over everything. And so continuously improve. If you can continuously improve 1% or 2% over several years, it accumulates. And then all of a sudden you'll have a breakthrough that'll be a step change, and everything will get dramatically better. But you've got to commit to it. You've got to have the perseverance. Again, the humility, the curiosity, and the drive to make all those things come together.
All right, I'd like to thank you again, Dr. Lashier, for being here with us today to share your insights and experiences, and I would like to invite the audience to join me in a round of applause to thank him.
Thank you, Clayton.
We've got time for a few questions, and our priority is questions from our students. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come bring the mic to you, and then Dr. Lashier will have a chance to answer it. So, yes. Please tell us what your major is.
Hi, my name is Aoife Shannon, and I'm a junior majoring in chemical and biomolecular engineering. Last summer, I got a chance to intern at a chemical plant, and my question is, what role do you see AI and technology playing in improving operations at the plant?
Well, I think at a very fundamental level, AI will help us make better decisions faster. And in chemical plants or refineries, a lot of times that is making better decisions safer, faster. And AI will be able to think faster than humans. When I was this young process engineer down at Sweeney, and an operator would notice something wasn't working right, and I'd have to go extract all this information out of data historians, and it was very archaic, and then I'd have to use a spreadsheet to graph it and figure out what was going on. And then 3 weeks later, I'd go back to the operator and say, okay, you need to change the temperature in this column by 2 degrees, and that'll fix the problem. That all happens in 30 seconds now because you've got the data there. The operator still may ask the engineer the question, and the engineer will use the AI, or the AI optimizer is already taking it there. We use machine learning to predict when things need to be maintained. We save hundreds of millions of dollars a year, just starting in the last few years, by using machine learning to predict when something needed to be taken down for maintenance. We used to take down entire refineries, open everything up. Oh, it's clean enough. Let's put it back together. Now we can target just exactly what needs to be repaired or cleaned up or maintained when it needs it, based on data, not based on the calendar. And so so efficiencies, cost savings, but the big one is really safety. You can take things to closer to operating limits, get more throughput, because you can do it safely, because AI has nerves of steel. It knows when to stop, and it knows when to go forward.
Thanks for that great question. Let's see. A lot of interest here in the front row. So let me get some of these front row folks, and then I'll come upstairs. Tell us your major.
Hi, I graduated recently. I was bachelor's and master's in civil engineering, and I'm here now for MBA. My main question is not to put you on the spot or grill you in any capacity, but it's more targeted towards negotiations and dealing with conflict, but with excellence and conflict for your benefit. Over the summer, I saw Phillips 66 had some issues, maybe a tough word, with some outside investors that may relate to your initial question that you had from Clayton regarding your 10 and 20-year scope about finding that incremental change 1% at a time, but it requires that long-term vision. How have you navigated developing that long-term vision for success for Phillips 66 long-term versus maybe some short-term?
Yeah, I think I think what it really boils down to is, before you get into those situations, you have to understand what your personal values are, and you have to understand what the company's values are. It starts with safety, honor, and commitment. It starts with safety, go with honor, do things with integrity, and when you commit to doing something, do it really well. And my personal values are, trust, transparency, simplicity. So I have to, if I'm going to negotiate with you, if you're going to challenge me on something, I'm going to try to build trust, but I'm going to be very transparent, and I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. And we did have an activist. We had a proxy battle. We didn't get down in the mud. We fought the battle with integrity, based on facts, based on what we know was the right thing, the long-term thing for shareholders. And at the end of the day, we prevailed in those arguments. Was it easy? No. Did it take persistence and courage? Yes. But those things only come when you've got solid values to stand on. So you really have to know what your values are. You really have to believe and have the courage of those convictions and believe in what you're doing to be able to fight those kinds of battles. Because if you get into something like that, these are very, brilliant people, very aggressive. If you don't know where you stand, you don't stand a chance.
I think I'll take a question from up here. So give me a second to get up there. Yes, sir. Tell us your major.
Hey, Dr. Lashier. My name is Gail. I'm a senior studying statistics and economics. And my question is specifically around how are you, because AI and machine learning and the technologies that you talked about with computing have emerged so fast in the industry, how are you leading Phillips in terms of the cultural change of using newer technologies, for example, at your refineries And for example, for a unit operator that has done things a certain way for decades, but now they're dealing with something new, how are you leading that change and providing the people with the opportunities and the right mindset to move towards a new
You must
direction?
have been listening to our executive leadership team meeting today. We had a presentation on exactly that there's a hunger to use AI, there's a hunger to leverage AI, but how do you best do it in a company? How do you can squander a lot of money and a lot of resources chasing AI stuff now. There's so much coming so quickly, but where we've landed is it's basically a human-centered approach. That operator has to know what's in it for him or her. How is this going to make their job easier, their job better? And we've actually gamified things a little bit so they can see when they respond and do what the machine learning or the AI tells them to do. They can see on a screen that they're making X dollars per minute more for the company. But you've got to, it's got to be relatable. You can't, the big machines aren't going to take over everything. Human is still human-centered. AI is going to be more of a coach and a tutor for us than a dictator. And I think that's where we're headed. And we're being, we're going to walk before we run. We're setting up systems where people can create their own bots, their own AI agents to help them do their tasks. If you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you're digging in for data, we're encouraging people to, we've got controls, quality controls in place, but to create the agents to go in and do things that can make their job more efficient and more effective. And I was walking through a control room in Billings, Montana, and there was an experienced operator teaching a new operator how a certain kind of distillation column worked, and he was using ChatGPT to show him real time the fundamentals of how this thing works. And it's there, and people are leveraging it whether we want them to or not. And so you've got to embrace it and channel it. And so, to get people to learn these concepts, you can take very esoteric concepts, and ChatGPT can put it in a way that just about anybody can understand how that piece of equipment works. And so it's really democratizing a lot of the knowledge in these facilities and making things simpler and easier to understand.
I'll take one more question from up here, and then I'll get to another part of the room. Yes, tell us your major.
Hi, I'm majoring in electrical and computer engineering, and I was wondering what a day in your life as a CEO looks like and how stressful you think it is.
Thank you. It's a great question.
Yeah, my kids ask me the same question, more directly. So what do you do? But I spend a lot of time talking to people about the company, about what our goals are, about how we expect to do things. I spend time with investors, talking about how we're creating value and how we're going to create value in the future. I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C., talking to policymakers, trying to help them understand the unintended consequences of the things that they're going to do, how it impacts companies like ours. I spend a lot of time talking to young engineers about great careers or young scientists about great careers. I talk a lot. I used to be this introverted scientist engineer. I don't know how this happened, but it did. But that's, I was at an AI conference, and I think I was the token energy person there. All these brilliant AI people out on a mountaintop in Park City, Utah, and someone asked somebody that knows a lot more about AI than I do, what is the most important subject to study to help people deal with AI? And she said, English and communications. So I guess my talking is fitting in, but words matter, and words matter a lot. And I think with AI, the precision of words, whether you're talking to an AI or whether you're talking to someone that you work with, precision and the beauty and the impact of words is so important. And my communications advisor, who's probably smiling right now because she knows it better than anyone. But I spend a lot of time talking, a lot of time not just sitting in meetings, but helping making meetings more valuable. I go out to our plants to talk to our people working in our plants, and I'm almost a professional speaker at this point.
We'll take a couple of more. So let's see. Yes, hold on. And again, tell us what you're studying.
Hi, thanks for your insight, first of all. I'm mastering in engineering management and leadership. So, of course, I'm very interested and curious about your journey of how you got here, not probably what you're currently doing necessarily. So, my question is, I understand that agility and adaptability is very valued. It determines survival of the fittest, maybe. But how did you navigate or balance when you were at the crossroad and you could pick your passion, or you could look at the trends and the evolving needs or demands of people? What did you pick and how did you navigate?
I often think about, those moments in time where you make these critical what seems like a fairly small decision at a time, but it changes your trajectory and you end up someplace. Where would you have ended up if you'd have made just this 1 degree different decision? And I don't think I made any immediate decision to just boom, let go of my passion. I'm going to fly this direction. It's always kind of, I'm still kind of holding on to this. But I think once I really got deep into the commercial jobs, and it really was probably moving to Singapore, where I couldn't have hands-on things. All of a sudden I had half the world reporting to me, and I had to really rely on other people, and I had to let go of all those things in the past. That's really when that happened, when I knew that, wow, I had the ability to lead and inspire people that knew more about what they were doing than I did. And it just, that shift in role just resonated more with me than the technical passions I had in the past. They're still back there rattling around somewhere, but it really became more about people than about the things I could do technically.
And one last question. I'll come back here to the front.
Hi, my name's Owen. I'm studying electrical and computing engineering, and I just want to say I spent the summer upstream on the drilling side, and I was working a lot with preventative maintenance and a lot of the stuff you're talking about. And you mentioned your time when you were working the refinery, and you kind of went from that engineering role, and you were working with like kind of more real people, more gruff people. I had that experience definitely out in the Permian, and I was curious how you see AI kind of, I don't want to say replacing that human role, because it's a very human industry, at least from my experience I spent this summer. But I'm just curious how you think you can kind of keep that role in there, because when I was out there, I found that to be such a valuable part of the work that's done. And I think maybe a lot of engineers who've not seen that before, maybe it's a valuable thing for them to see.
I think that AI will just augment what people do out in the field. I think it will give them opportunities to do more, to do it better, to do it quicker. But I think that you still need humans at the center of it all, and particularly the folks out there that are making those kinds of decisions when things change unexpectedly. AI has to know what happened in the past, and I think you're always going to need AIs. My view is AI is going to tutor or be an advisor or be a coach for those people, but there is just something about what you can do out there in the field where things happen, where you get your hands dirty, that helps you understand how the whole bigger system works. And it's always going to be important for people to have those experiences to grow and to develop into leaders. But yeah, I had thought a lot about that same question, Owen.
Thank you very much. I want to mention something. This is our 4th edition of Engineers in the C-Suite, and we have never had a set of questions from the audience as thoughtful, as insightful as the questions we've had tonight. I really want to thank the students in our audience for their engagement and for bringing their insight here. There's one more ceremonial thing we want to do, and I'll turn things back to Dr. Higgs.
All right, wow, that was awesome, from you all and certainly Dr. Lashier, so we appreciate it. So we try to always give the RCEL coin to the special person in the room who comes to greet us and to interact with you, and today is no different. So we'll give this, and thank you for coming. Engineer in the C-suite, everybody, Dr. Mark Lashier.
Thank you.